I'm going to be going over 4 different types of collars. We have different pieces of equipment out there. One piece of equipment I've already gone over, I've already done videos on this, and it is the e-collar. But I don't have a whole lot of material when it comes to the other pieces of equipment, so I'm going to be going over them now. So one collar that is very popular, very common, is this one right here. This is not even considered a training tool. This is mostly just basically a necklace for your dog. It doesn't really accomplish much. There is no there's no safety attached to this. A dog could easily slip out of this. If your dog does pull against this flat collar, then the dog is just doing a lot of damage to his trachea. So there's really very little benefit to this other than it's an ID tag. It's an ID collar. It's a way for you to put a leash on your dog and have it quickly go in and out. Maybe take it for a potty break. But aside from that, that's the only purpose it serves. It's not an actual training tool. It can be used during training. So if I'm doing clicker training, that's fine. You don't need anything else. Another piece of equipment that is also very popular, but it's now starting to diminish in popularity, is the slip collar, or also called choke chain. So slip collar, choke chain, whatever you want to call it. This is another piece of equipment that is more of an upgrade to the flat collar. And I say an upgrade because this actually does help you in a couple of ways. What happens here is, I'm going to go over this real quick, by the way. This would be called the live ring. So every collar, every training tool or training collar has a live ring and a dead ring. A live ring is what we would call the part of the collar that activates the collar. Okay, so that's the live ring. The dead ring is the part of the collar that doesn't activate the collar. So the dead ring in this case would be this one, or it could be both of them together. Then it doesn't activate the collar. The live ring activates the collar, and every training collar has one of these. Going back to the slip collar, the benefit that this gives me over the flat collar is that when I attach it to the live ring, the dog can't slip out of it. So the more the dog would try to slip out of it, some dogs will try that. You can actually see some dogs are very skilled at getting out of equipment. They know just how to move to slide out of a collar. Well, when they do that, when they try to do that with this, even if it's by accident, this is just going to tighten. It's not going to let the dog slip out, which is a much better upgrade when it comes to safety. The disadvantage of the slip collar is that if you don't know how to use it properly, the dog is going to really choke itself, and it's just going to do a lot more damage to the trachea. It could even collapse the trachea if you don't know what you're doing and you have a very strong puller. Also, another limitation is, I don't like to put this on young dogs. So if I do use it, I'm not going to use it on a puppy, and I'm certainly not going to use it in a way that it's just going to damage the dog, even if it's an older dog. So the way this works is I can actually give a correction. It's a pop and release, and what it does is it does a little pinch right here. So every time that this activates, it'll pinch right where the ring meets the chain. And of course, then we have to release, right? You have to put it on properly too. If you put it on, backwards, then what will happen is the collar would just not release. It'll just tighten up and it won't release. So you have to put it on the proper way so that when you do pop and release, it actually releases the tension. Another collar that is kind of known in some circles, a lot of people don't know about this, is the Starmark, or it's a Polymer Collar. This is a martingale style collar, and it's the equivalent of a prong collar, the metal prong collar that a lot of people are familiar with. And what this does is, it's a martingale collar, it's a martingale style collar. it does have the prongs. They're made of polymer, very hard material, but what it does is it administers the corrections, so administers the pinches a little bit around versus just the one spot. And to put this on and off, you just have to do it this way. So you have to actually disconnect the links in order to size it properly. Once you've sized it properly and you can put it back on, then you could use the quick release, which now they have the quick release. The older Starmark collars didn't have the quick release, so you had to put it on and off with this. The next collar I'm going to be going over is one that doesn't have a whole lot of popularity in a lot of groups, and that is the Prong Collar. So the Prong Collar is another martingale style collar. So martingale just means it has the two circles, and just like I was talking about earlier, just like any other training collar, it has a live ring. So in this case, the live ring is the swivel, because what it does is it activates the collar. The dead ring would be one of these at the end, or you know, two of these right here. That would make it so that it doesn't activate the collar. Now the way this is supposed to work is it's supposed to give a pop and release all the way around the dog's neck. This is not supposed to be constantly tight against the dog, because all it does is it's going to increase the tolerance. It's not really going to administer that proper correction that should be used with a piece of equipment like this. The disadvantage of this, just like some of the other training equipment, the more links that you have, the more likely it is to pop during training. You know, your choke chain, the only way the choke chain is going to pop is if one of the links actually breaks. With this, there's a lot of moving parts here. I've actually seen collars, prong collars, the small ones. I rarely see the big ones, but the small ones, I see them pop easy quite a bit. So I don't like those too much. I like the medium-sized ones. I don't like the large link either, because they're just too heavy. They don't do as much as what they should be doing, which the medium size are just the ideal size for me. The little ones would be good if you're doing more precision type of work, or if you're working with a dog that has maybe a smaller frame. But on a medium to larger size dog, a small prong collar, to me, it's just a recipe for disaster. It's just gonna pop eventually. The links are gonna bend. It's not gonna last you that long. The way this is supposed to be used is pop and release. You're not supposed to have constant tension. It'll increase the tolerance on the dog. It doesn't help you. It's nagging the dog. And also, you need to fit this properly. It should fit just right. You should not be able to put it on the dog's neck. You actually have to size it. And another disadvantage to this is also the taking it on and off, which to me, I find it very easy, but people that are kind of new with this, they find this very difficult. The way I do it is, so to take it off, I just grab my two links right here, and then as I grab the two links, I just slide one up. I don't have to pinch any of the prongs or anything. To put it on, I just put one in slightly, and then I'll kind of pinch the other one in. To take it off, same two links or any two links. I'm gonna grab one, I'm gonna grab the other, and I'm just gonna slide one up, and then it comes off fairly quickly. You have to size it on the dog properly, and I like to have a backup too. As a backup, you could have your maybe a slip collar at the bottom, and then connect your leather leash or your biothan leash to your live ring on the prong, and the live ring on the choke chain, just as a backup for the choke chain in case this does pop. Then at least you have the choke chain holding onto the dog. Now talk a little bit about training here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that, but I know this video is probably not for everybody. Some people are going to see the video and the equipment, and they're just not going to understand why we would need to hurt dogs to train them. And training is not about hurting dogs. It's about communication. That's really what training is for. It's communication. We want to communicate to a dog what certain things mean, and want to do it with a wide array of tools as much as I can. I want to be able to communicate to this dog how rewards are produced. I want to be able to communicate to this dog how good things are produced. I want this dog to love the training process. I don't want the dog to be terrified of me. I don't want the dog to be terrified of training. So that is never the purpose of training. But what training tools allow us to do is they also allow us to communicate certain things to the dog that we wouldn't otherwise be able to with just rewards, not as effectively at least. So this allows me to let the dog know, you know, or it could be this too, or this. It allows me to communicate to the dog, let's do this instead. I know you want to do that, let's not do that right now. And sometimes, I'm just making this very simplified, by the way. This is a lot more complex than that. But there are times where I have to communicate to the dog, no, you can't do that, or no, don't do that. There are going to be times in which that has to happen, okay? 80 to 90% of my training can be, yeah, let's do this, and let's make it so that you want to do this and you want to do that. There's going to be about 10% of the times, maybe even less, but it's going to be a 10% of the time, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, in which I'm going to have to be able to communicate to the dog, no, you just can't do that, okay? Or yes, you have to come back even if you don't want to. And I can't do that with this, really can't. I can't do that with just withholding the reward. There are going to be times in which I'm going to have to convey that with much more effectiveness, where a tool can come in handy and allow me to convey that to the dog, because training is all about communication. Now, the other argument that people have is, well, if you need to use one of these, then you don't know how to train dogs. That is the stupidest thing, the stupidest argument. There's no basis behind it. It sounds nice, but it really has no basis behind it, okay? Think of a dog that wants something really bad that it should not have. And the only way to convey that at times is through discipline. And the way to convey that through discipline sometimes is going to be to let the dog know, I know you really want to do that more than anything, more than me, more than my treats, but you can't do that, okay? No, running after whatever moves, you can't do that. There are times where I have to do this. I have to. You absolutely have to. And if you say you don't, if you know how to train dogs, you don't have to do that, then you're not using all the tools that you need to. And really, you're not really training the dog in those specific parts of training, okay? Because at some point, your treats are not going to matter. You're not going to matter. None of that is going to matter. The dog's going to say, fuck you, I want that, and you can't stop me. And obviously, if you just have this and your treat pouch, the dog is going to be right. You're not going to be able to stop it. Okay, I want the dog to understand, God, I really want to do that, but I know that there is a consequence to me doing this and not doing this instead. Anyways, that's deeper into the philosophy of training or what type of methodology you want to follow. I'm just making this video to let you know that there are different tools, and how I'm going to use this tool, it's going to be different than how I'm going to use this tool. Whether I'm going to use this or this or this, it's really going to depend on the dog. It, you know, on the situation even, and on the skill level of the trainer. You know, people sometimes will look at this as, you know, a progression scale. People will go, well, first let's start with this, and then if that doesn't work, let's go to this. If that doesn't work, let's go to this. And if that doesn't work, let's go to this. Now, you can do that, but you don't have to do that, because I can apply this with the most subtle form of pressure out there. It's just harder to do that when you don't have the skill. And that's why it depends on a few different factors as to what training tool you're going to use. E-collars, that's a different topic. I have a whole playlist on e-collars. But e-collar is the same thing. They're another tool that I can use at the most subtle level to more in your face type of level. Okay, which again, I can look at it in terms of ratios, right? My activation or positive training could be like 90%, and then like 10%, give or take, could be no, you can't do that. No, that you have to wait. Not now. So anyways, that's what this video is about. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. If you absolutely hated it, drop me a comment and tell me why.